Hey, hi, hello friends. This was an awesome idea from Hey Rissa today to talk about picking your business name. We have a whole section on this in our first 30 days workbook, which is linked below and takes you through the entire process of building a business with a rock solid foundation from the very beginning. And when you pick a name, you want to do it right the first time because rebrands are costly, time intensive, and frankly confusing to your audience, and no one wants that. So without further ado, some tips for picking your business name. So first of all, don't be cutesy. Puns are great. I think they're very pun. No? Okay. But in your business name, they can seem a little unprofessional and frankly just make things confusing, which the whole point of this is to make things as clear as possible. Like a good joke or pun, if you have to explain your business name, it's probably not a good one, so let's steer clear of that. Also, try to make sure it's easy to say and also to spell because you'll be doing both of those a lot, I promise you. If your business is so much fun with so spelled S-E-W, well, do you really want to be spelling out S-E-W every time you talk about your business for the next 20 years? And if you don't, then someone you met at a networking event last night might not be able to find your website or find your handle because they're not spelling it correctly, which is just not something you want to make harder on a potential client. Keep this in mind with names too. If your last name is 15 letters and really complicated to spell, like mine is Shank, it was a little bit complicated, then maybe shorten it. Don't use your last name, use an initial. I even know some people who have used like kind of a nickname version of their last name for their business. Another thing is to think long term. So try not to choose something that's going to pigeonhole you into this tiny niche unless you're sure that you want to be in that niche forever. I actually kept my last name out of my business because of the previous tip that it's complicated, but also because I figured I would get married eventually and I've always planned to change my name when I get married. You also got to make sure your business name is available. Not only could you face legal issues if it's not, but it could also just be confusing if someone has a similar name to you. So as we said a million times in this video already, we want to make things as clear, straightforward, easy for clients to find you as possible, and we don't want you being confused with someone else with a similar name. So what you can do is check your local county business registers, Google it to make sure there's nothing in other counties or other states. Just do everything that you can to make sure that it's available. This might mean that you can't have that perfect name that you just came up with, but trust us, having an original name in the long run is going to be better. If you're using your given name, then you'll likely just want to make sure someone else doesn't have the same name or very similar name in the same field and in the same general geographic area. It gets more complicated than this, but a general rule is that if clients could confuse the two of you for being the same business, then you might run into legal issues. And while you're Googling it, make sure that your domain name and your social media handles are available for whatever business name that you want to start. Isn't it so weird when you try to find a company online and you can't because their social media handles or their domain have some like dot or dash in a place that you wouldn't have expected? You might want to make it obvious what you do in your name. You might not. Some people love this. I think it depends. Target, for instance, is not Target Superstore, but Walmart is Walmart Superstore or Super Center. I don't know. I have Design by Lainey, which does indicate design, but it purposely left things a little bit open in case I wanted to get back into wedding design, branding design, etc. at some point. I also actually own By Lainey, which was originally going to be kind of an overarching company for Events by Lainey and Design by Lainey. So I have access to a few different things because I wasn't 100% sure where I wanted to go long term. Your name is also a huge part of your branding, so you want to make sure that it matches the overall feel that you want your brand to embody. If you go with something cutesy or specific, you might find that eventually your brand outgrows that. So you can avoid some of this by maybe going with your name here, but either way, just make sure you're very aware of what brand you want to be putting out there and that the name doesn't in some way conflict with that. We actually started as Handmade by Lainey and decided to give ourselves a little less of a crafty vibe, even though at the time we were still creating the same type of products. And once you've kind of met all of these and found something that you like, make sure you ask a lot of people. Try it out on a bunch of people, say it 100 times to yourself. You don't want to waste a lot of time and money branding yourself only to realize that if you say your name really fast or with a certain accent, it sounds like a dirty word or something. If any of you have stories about that happening, please share them below, because I'm sure it's happened before and I'm dying to hear that. But just make sure you try it out. You're going to be saying this a ton over the next few years, so make sure it's something you're comfortable with. Kind of like a kid's name. You want to yell it a bunch so that you know you're comfortable yelling it. It doesn't feel weird coming out. So we linked the first 30 days workbook below if you're still in this stage of your business. It'll help you with branding, finding your voice, setting up your systems, process flow, all these foundational aspects of running a creative business. Tell us in the comments below what name you ended up deciding on, and if there's any meaningful stories behind it. I just love hearing how people come up with things like this for their brand. And as always, subscribe to the Doorbell channel for more conversations and tips for creative business owners. Have a great day.